Coach Brian again with Northwest Elite Spirit. You'll have to forgive the infrequency of my uploads for now, as I am sleeping in a van outdoors, and it makes it hard to get these things done. This will be my last battle on Earth, and there's a lot to touch on here, so I'm going to do my best to translate my thoughts. It's not enough to know how to make and set up traps, he said. A hunter must live as a hunter in order to draw the most out of his life. Unfortunately, changes are difficult and happen very slowly. Sometimes it takes years for a man to become convinced of the need to change. It took me years, but maybe I didn't have a knack for hunting. I think for me the most difficult thing was to really want to change. And in this chapter, Carlos also expresses that he doesn't really want to change. And I connect with Don Juan and Carlos here. I have been the one who didn't really want to change. I've been the one who claimed I wanted things to change, and yet I wouldn't change, and I have had my arguments or excuses for doing things my way. I've been the one who knows he needs to change, and recently, and found out that I haven't really changed, not even by a single degree. I'm physically and mentally gifted. And I say this because it's like Don Juan says, it's not enough to know how to make and set up traps. A hunter must live as a hunter in order to draw the most out of his life. And I haven't been a good hunter for most of my life. I've known how to do things, and yet I've relied on my natural talent and charisma to gain most things. And this has always left me with barely enough, and often, like now, barely not enough. Always chasing the things I want and need and never quite catching them. Or when I do catch them, I'm not able to hold on to them. A good hunter changes his ways as often as he needs. You know that yourself. I like here how Don Juan points out that Carlos knows what a good hunter does. It keeps Carlos from ignoring the facts, and it reminds me that I too know these things. Don Juan begins to talk about the powers that guide our lives and our deaths. And this is a spot where many critics of Don Juan or Carlos will say that Don Juan is being woo-woo or mystical. And yet we all know that there are forces that guide us. The sun coming up and the sun going down guides our sleep. The weather guides our outdoor activities and even in our moods. Here in Washington State right now, it's very cloudy, very dark, very rainy, and people's moods are becoming somber and sad. The seasons guide our crops and our traditions. On and on it goes. There are for sure forces in the world that we are all aware of, and there isn't anything hocus pocus about any of it. Carlos, as usual, tries to paint these practical and obvious statements as cryptic. Don Juan knows Carlos is up to his same old tricks, and he says, "You won't be able to stop yourself easily." And Don Juan goes on to explain that Carlos is stubborn, and yet that doesn't matter, and that the more stubborn Carlos is, the better it will be. I think this is because when we're stubborn, it can be very good if applied to things that are good, like changing for the better. When you're stubborn, decisions stick faster than when you're not. The problem I've ran into is my stubbornness has allowed my old ways to stick. And I'm waiting for that moment when my stubbornness will turn into a decision to change for the better, and that sticks. And I believe that will happen. Carlos goes on to say that he is trying his best, and Don Juan disagrees. As a personal trainer, I've ran into this a lot, where a client will be half-assing a task, falling short of their goal, and stating diligently, arguing diligently, that they are trying their best. And they pour more energy into pretending to be trying than it would take to actually achieve the task. And I've been that person too. I've spent way more energy, even recently, arguing about a task than it would have taken to just complete the task. And if I would have relaxed and calmed down, even if the task did take just as long, it wouldn't have been as stressful. Carlos is saying he's doing the best he can, and Don Juan tells him he is wrong and he can do better. Carlos admits that it's true, and I know it's true in me. I can do better. So if this video, for instance, were my last act on earth, how powerful will it be? And how can I actually do better? I too have been trying my best, quote unquote, to no avail. Don Juan says that this trying and getting nowhere must be remedied, and I agree. Don Juan suggests that the only way to remedy it is to live as if this were your last battle on earth. And so in this last battle on earth, this day, this video, this talk, I'll pour it all out and give you guys my best. And if this video isn't my last battle, the next one will be approached the same way, as if it were my last battle. Carlos begins to explain himself and cuts himself short, because he always ends up feeling like a fool when he explains himself. And Don Juan goes on to say that he has already told Carlos that we are all fools and that Carlos always feels compelled to explain himself because of his self-importance. This is another thing I see in myself and in other people. Always explaining ourselves. And it has a sort of look at me way about it. Many of the things we apologize for or begin to explain ourselves about are things no one else is even thinking about. And it's actually a way of drawing attention, in my opinion. How do I personally accept responsibility for being in this weird world? Well, first, I will not allow myself to get sucked into some stupid mood. I can be sad, yet I won't remain sad. I can be anxious, yet I won't remain anxious. I can be angry, and yet I won't remain angry. I can be opposed to the world, and yet I won't remain opposed. I will live as if this action, right here, right now, were my last act on earth. I will not just agree that people and things are weird. I'll begin addressing people and things from what I know they will do or what will happen, rather than what I hope people will do or what I hope will happen. This will save time and energy. And when people reveal who they really are, which they normally do right away, I will not ignore it. And when certain actions come from my actions, I will not ignore it. And I'll live as a hunter, paying attention to every situation, slowing down to see what is going on around me, and noticing all of my alternatives. I've noticed since being homeless that this can be hard. You can become blinded with fear or indecision. When you have no money for food or gas and you come to a stop sign, you can become very anxious, not knowing which way to go. Not knowing which way will lead to cold and or hunger, which way will be safe. And so I will choose the path every time that leads towards my goal. And that is how I'll live as a hunter. I will hunt my goals. I will hunt what I want out of this life, even if it kills me. I will die on a path with heart. And so I sit here in the woods, having taken a left turn instead of a right in pursuit of what I want to share with you guys and with the world. I wouldn't say that I'm fearless. Right now I have a few fears. I'm not letting those fears stop me though. Fear is my enemy. Fear is not my friend. Fear is a liar. And so I hunt. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and of course practice. I'm Coach Brian James Spears, and this has been my last battle on earth. Thank you.